My apologies for being late today, guys, but Monday was one of those days just seemingly never ended. I told you early in the weekend that for my son's 21st birthday present, I got him and his three friends passes to go to Coachella, the big music festival in Indio, California. Now, I love music. I love going to concerts, but hanging out with 95 to 100,000 other people outdoors for 3 days, that's not my cup of tea. So I dropped them off at 1:30 in the morning on Friday after flying to LAX to pick everybody up, making the 2.5 hour drive, dropped them off and headed to San Diego. Great time in San Diego. What a beautiful city. But then yesterday, you had to be out of Coachella by 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'm leaving San Diego at like 7 o'clock to get there. Of course, I hit all types of traffic, as to be expected. It's not LA traffic, but it ain't easy. So I get there. It takes me a little over 3 hours. Pick them up. Everybody and their brother then is going back to LA on Interstate 10. A 2.5 hour drive takes almost 4.5 hours because every motor coach, every minivan, every Toyota Prius is loaded with camping equipment and festival goers. Oh my God, what a nightmare just to get back to LAX. So by the time I ship them all off to their different destinations, I get home like it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little beat. Guess who overslept this morning by accident? So that's why the video report is late. But I'll tell you something, guys. If you're a music fan, Coachella, my son and his friends, they are just huge Guns N' Roses fans. Now, they weren't even around, okay, when Guns N' Roses were in their heyday, but they're huge GNR fans. They're in the metal, they're in the rock, they had their own band, etc. So they just love it. So they said when the rumors first started circulating that they would be reuniting at Coachella, they said they'd love to go, which gave myself the idea to send them to Coachella. But once I got them the tickets back in early January, they had said no matter what, their whole focus in this 3-day thing was to be there at the front, no matter what it took. Well, they opened the gates at 11 o'clock in the morning. So my son and his three friends, they go and camp out right there at the security barrier for Guns N' Roses on the main stage. Now, Guns N' Roses is playing at 10:30 at night. Okay, it's like 90-some degrees. It's windy on Saturday at Coachella. They stay there all day, and I'll be damned, they're right there on the railing for Guns N' Roses. Just as they said, I never thought they'd be able to pull it off or have the fortitude to do so. But then they get rewarded because the set before that, NWA, straight out of Compton. Most of my audience is going, NW what? NWA. In week number 1, they had a big thing. They brought out Snoop Dogg. But in week number 2, they had all the remaining surviving members because Dr. Dre was in the house. So they got to see that historic performance plus Guns N' Roses. And they also got to see Kendrick Lamar a couple of times come out in some guest sets as well. So quite a day. Needless to say, on Sunday they rested because Calvin Harris just wasn't going to cut it. I don't think there's many Calvin Harris fans that also follow Guns N' Roses. But what an amazing thing, other than you can go broke if you go to this festival. I mean, it's $350 for the general admission wristband. Hey, that's nice. But if you want to camp and you want to do something, I gave them the option. Could you stay in a hotel and take the shuttle over? No. They wanted to rough it. They wanted to have the whole experience. So I got them the 4-person tent, has the wooden floor and the 4 cots and the little cooler already provided. $3,250, and that didn't even cover the costs, when we're talking about the expense of flying people all over the place. But then I love that they have something called a safari tent option. For $7,500, I think was the price. 2 people get the general admission tickets, and you get a luxurious tent, air-conditioned tent, with queen-size luxury beds, with your own television, concierge, and your own refrigerator, freezer, and your own private security, entrance too. And if you want to add 2 more people, they're only $1,750 a pop. Amazing how much these damn things cost. Needless to say, I didn't go for that option. Let's talk about the playoffs. Listen, I cashed in with my best bet last night with the Charlotte Hornets. And the other game, Oklahoma City, I told the guys here at the site, you had to take that as a loss if you were on the Thunder. Now, a lot of them released the Thunder when they were a 14-point favorite overnight, but some of the books overnight were also 14.5. Well, the number fell on 14, and it really went to 14.5 by 10:30, 11 o'clock Eastern time yesterday morning. So I said everybody had to take a loss on the Thunder. It was a tough loss, needless to say. But how about the complexity of the playoffs changing with 2 key injuries? Now, we already had Steph Curry out for a couple of weeks with the MCL sprain of his knee. Now, it's not going to stop the Warriors getting by the Houston Rockets, and the Warriors' path got even easier because their next opponent could be the Clippers. If it's the Portland Trailblazers, could be a little more interesting because the Trailblazers, after getting blown out by 20 and 21 points in the first two games at LA, took care of business at home, and they benefited as well from Chris Paul suffering the season-ending broken hand. And you got Blake Griffin, who's playing on one leg, and you got DeAndre Jordan, who is once again proving here in the postseason that he's such a liability on the floor because the hack-a-shack thing just puts him at the line too many times, and he's, a 38% career free throw shooter, which sucks. That is the problem. So you now have a Clippers team that may not get by the Portland Trailblazers, a Warriors team who, they should beat the Portland Trailblazers, but what's the Trailblazers' strength? It's their backcourt. What's the Warriors' strength? It's their backcourt when Curry is 100% healthy. Meanwhile, over in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers are saying, hey, all of you suffer injuries. Can't somebody from the Thunder or the Spurs get hurt? Because their path is looking a lot sweeter to get to the NBA Finals since number 2 seed Toronto was struggling here at 2-2 in the best-of-7 set going into game number 5 tonight against Indiana. Clippers, injury-riddled. Warriors may not be at 100%. Cavaliers, feeling good about it. Yesterday, the underdogs went 1-2 thanks to the Thunder and the Trailblazers, but still the favorites are 21-12 so far in the postseason. You've had 22 double-digit blowouts, 19 of them recorded by favorites. Before the Trailblazers went out right by double digits last night as an underdog, there had only been 2 other dogs to win in that double-digit favorite category, or double-digit blowout category, and that happened to be the Pacers in games 1 and 4 of their series against Toronto. The under, however, still maintains its strong run, 2 out of 3 games under the total. Yesterday, the under is 22-10-1 so far here in the postseason. I want to talk about the game now between Boston and Atlanta. Listen, so far the home team has gone 3-1 against the spread in this series, and it's been an interesting series to say the least. Let's quickly recap. Game number 1, Hawks open up, a 19-point lead. Celtics come all the way back and lose by 1 to get the cover. Hawks get the win. Game number 2, the Hawks win easily because the Celtics were just atrocious, even worse than in game number 1 in the first half of game number 2. Game number 3, Celtics come back home, must-win situation. They open up the big lead, and Hawks come surging back, but the Celtics manage to get the win and get the cover. Game number 4, tale of 2 halves. Hawks open up a double-digit lead because Paul Millsap rediscovers his shooting touch. He had more points in the first half, 26, than he had in the first 3 games of the series combined, finished with a playoff career high 45. But then Hawks come back, take the lead, right? Looks like they're going to win it comfortably. They're up by 4 with 49 seconds to go. Jeff Teague hits a couple of three-pointers, forces overtime. Millsap takes 2 shots in the OT session, misses them both. Celtics get the win and get the cover. Tough series. But that's the one I'm going to talk about tonight. Listen, I think these series all come down to momentum. And what makes the NBA playoffs so interesting to bet is because you notice trends, you start to see momentum shifts, you have injuries that, of course, are impacting games, and by virtue of having best-of-7 series, you can find those gems. I think tonight the momentum has certainly swung in the Celtics' favor. This is a team that didn't play much defense down the stretch, didn't play that well on the road down the stretch of the regular season, except for that huge road upset of Golden State in the season's closing weeks, but definitely the team with confidence. Why was Paul Millsap finally stopped? Because Marcus Smart did a great job. And in terms of the Celtics offense, there has been no answer for the Hawks defensively on Isaiah Thomas, who keeps lighting them up. Hawks continuing to struggle with their shooting, only 37% in game number 4. And even though nobody says it, Al Horford, who is so important to this team, is not the same guy he was in games number 1 and 2 of this series. Games 1 and 2, he had 24 and 17 points respectively. In games 3 and 4, because he's been playing with a pulled groin muscle, he had 5 and 8 points respectively. When Kyle Korver isn't hitting from the outside, when Dennis Schrader isn't giving you any offense off the bench, when Al Horford is struggling down low, Hawks don't have a lot of scoring options. And we've seen here in the series, the Celtics, even though they're missing Avery Bradley, simply do have too many scoring options for the Hawks to contend with. I think this is going to be another game. You have to hope Boston plays a little defense tonight, but I think that the Celtics have nothing to lose. They now knotted the series at 2 apiece, And I think they stay within the 7-point margin. It could be a 4 or 5-point game, but I got to go with Boston as your free play. Your other complimentary play, I'm going to take the Cubs on the run line as $1.05 home dog laying the 1.5 runs tonight at Wrigley with Kyle Hendricks on the hill against Milwaukee and Jimmy Nelson. Hendricks had a 1.48 earned run average in 4 starts against Milwaukee last season. He has not pitched well here of late, and he certainly hasn't gotten much run support, just 3 runs of support in his last 5 starts dating back to last year, postseason combined at Wrigley by the Cubs. But the Cubs are coming off a 4-game series at Cincinnati in which they won 3 out of 4. But the takeaway from that series is this, that the offense got cranking again. I mean, in that series, they scored 38 runs. And the 2 guys who have struggled up to that point are now on fire. And they're the 2 guys that anchor the middle of their lineup. Anthony Rizzo hit 163 the first 14 games of the season. Last 5 games, 6 for 20 with 5 homers, and he's knocked in 10 runs. Jason Hayward, their big free agent acquisition, first 14 games batted 170, but now 10 for 20 past 5 games, and he's on a roll as well. So Brewers just lost 2 out of 3 at home to the Phillies over the weekend. Jimmy Nelson making his second road start. Didn't pitch particularly well outside of Miller Park a year ago with an earned run average of 4.76 versus 3.49 at home. So I'm going to take the Cubbies. Again, this is a team that started off like gangbusters. First 9 games of the season, averaging a little over 7.5 runs a game. Then they hit a little bit of a slump. 6-game stretch, they only averaged 2.8 runs a game. But again, they just scored 38 in that 4-game series, of which they took 3 out of 4 from the Reds to cap a 5-2 road trip. Only home tonight for the 7th game of the season at Wrigley. And I'm going to go with the Cubbies on the run line tonight as your other complimentary play, joining the Boston Celtics as the dog on the road. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow when I promise I'll be back early. Good luck, everybody.